On behalf of Parks Associates and our 25th Annual Connections Conference, I'd like to welcome Raman Sidhu, Vice President of Product, Xfinity Home and Connectivity, Comcast, a huge powerhouse player. We've seen so much activity in the smart home and security space, and we really appreciate you taking your time today to share a little bit more of your perspectives. So let's go ahead and start out and see if you can share some of the latest trends you're seeing in the market today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Elizabeth. So happy to be here. And Parks Associates does such a great job bringing industry players together with great research and great events. So thank you so much for including me. When I think about some of the industry trends that are really impactful these days over the last several years, I think about DIY, right? I think about the flexibility of choice so that meeting customers where they are. DIY when it comes to professional monitoring so that there's choices there, as well as DIY when it comes to self-monitoring. Cameras, video doorbells, door locks, garage door openers, etc. There's so much goodness that is coming down the pike that customers now have the flexibility to do it on their terms. And that's not even, the first time. We often think about smart home users building their smart home kind of brick by brick over time. It's not all at once. So I think that's really important that consumers can add on to their smart home over time as their needs change. Another big one, maybe just to hit on really quickly, is convergence. Security, historically, it's been, it's a standalone service of arming and disarming. But today, particularly over the last several years, you see all of these components, these features and experiences coming together into interoperable kind of user experiences within one app or with voice assistants, et cetera. So I think those integration across use cases are going to become more and more important.
Well, I certainly agree that DIY and the new options that are coming for consumers to add security to their homes has certainly been expanding the market. And those integrations between devices and services is getting more towards the vision of the smart home that we've all been thinking about for years, which is really this whole home service play. So if you can tell me what areas are you seeing the most growth in as consumers continue to adopt more connected devices with the attached services that go along with them?
No, it's a great point, Elizabeth. I think on the core, our core is still security, monitoring, professional monitoring, self-monitoring. But as I put my kind of industry hat on and look more broadly, there's so much growth happening in those adjacencies that are leveraging the same technology, leveraging the cameras, the sensors to provide new use cases. And I think there's been market events from customers in the insurtech space with the insurance play with smart insurance. I think that's going to be really big and continue to grow and be impactful for helping consumers reduce their premiums and have safer and more secure homes. I think delivery services are, in the pandemic, I think that, for most and many consumers, the delivery of food and groceries and, whether it be DoorDash or Instacart, as well as the abundance of things that now we're just not going to the store and getting delivered to us. So how do we do that in a more safe and secure way? How do we ensure that those packages can go maybe inside the home or into the garage in a more secure way? So I think around the delivery is going to be an area that's going to continue to be important for our industry. And then another more nuanced one that I think has legs is going to be around learning and well-being. So while it's not security.
cooler open.
New research from Parks Associates reveals COVID-19 has significantly impacted consumer behavior and has heightened concerns for safety and security, with 64% of consumers reconsidering at least one lifestyle change as a result of the pandemic. This new report, Safe Space: Elevated Smart Home Use Cases During COVID-19, identifies consumer intentions and actions to address heightened security concerns, preferred providers and sources of information on smart home services, and special concerns for apartment renters. According to this quarterly survey work of 10,000 broadband households, consumers are making long-term lifestyle changes in response to the COVID-19 crisis. As consumers invest in their homes, adoption of smart home solutions is expanding. Connectivity provides new ways to solve problems, and consumers are willing to spend money to improve their day-to-day lives. To learn more about this new research, please contact us at sales@parksassociates.com.
On behalf of Parks Associates, it's our goal to ensure our event sponsors receive great visibility and benefits from supporting our executive conferences, custom webinars, white papers, and podcasts. By participating in our events and custom marketing activities, companies gain visibility and brand awareness by leveraging our industry knowledge and insights, which have been carefully and strategically curated for over 35 years. Our event sponsorships include customized visibility options to fit your needs and reach our executive level audience focused on the specific areas we study. Parks Associates custom marketing services include a white paper, webinar, or podcast, which can be produced as a separate marketing activity or in conjunction with our event sponsorships. These thoughtfully crafted content projects leverage our consumer and industry data and are highlighted by our marketing and research team for 3 months. Our team promotes these custom projects through a variety of channels and formats, including video, social media, podcasting, blogging, press activities, and more. Throughout the year, we help connect you with the people who matter the most. In 2022, we look forward to offering virtual events in addition to in-person events, providing a great mix of options to participate. Connections is our flagship event, held annually for over 25 years. This conference addresses critical business issues pertaining to the converging connected home ecosystem and crossover opportunities in adjacent markets. Join us virtually all year and in person in May of 2022. Smart Energy Summit, Engaging the Consumer, examines the expanding markets for energy solutions and home controls, as well as their impact on utilities, service providers, retailers, manufacturers, and consumers. We look forward to seeing you virtually year-round as well as in person in February of 2022. Connected Health Summit, Consumer Engagement and Innovation features shifts in consumer healthcare with a special focus on the impact of connected devices, mobile health services, and new health reforms. This conference will be held all year virtually and meeting in person in August 2022. Future of video, OTT, pay TV, and digital media, focuses on the changing digital media landscape with sessions examining OTT and streaming video, content delivery and discovery, and strategies for attracting and retaining consumers. We'll see you virtually throughout the year and in person in December 2022. If you're interested in getting involved, please reach out to me today. I would love to talk with you.
If you miss a live session, you can go back at any time to watch on demand. Go to Watch Replays and click on the session that you want to view. Have you created your own event agenda and swap card? Visit the Agenda and Watch Replay tabs to add sessions that interest you to your own event. You can go back to My Event to revisit any bookmarked sessions, sponsors, and items. We want to make sure that you're connecting with our industry-leading sponsors. You can interact with them by visiting the Booths and the Sponsor tab. You can also bookmark sponsors or add items to your event to view later. Sponsors have uploaded extra materials for attendees. Make sure to visit sponsors that interest you to chat with one of their team members or save documents for later. We have dedicated meeting slots set up for break times between sessions. Continue the discussion by requesting meetings from others in the Swap Card platform. Schedule a meeting with another attendee or a sponsor by visiting their page. The panelists and speakers will be addressing your questions live during the stream. During the stream, use the question tab to ask your questions early in the presentation. Go to the poll tab to answer polls that will be discussed during the live stream. If you need help navigating Swap Card, please reach out to our team by mentioning @Parks Associates in the chat box or by contacting one of our team members via our company page. Welcome to Parks Associates' 25th year of Connections, the premier connected home conference. This virtual series will be hosted across 2021, bringing together a community of industry leaders in the connected home industries. In the 20-plus years that Parks Associates has hosted Connections, the connected home has evolved from a high-end concept towards a mass market opportunity with incredible revenue potential. Today, several high-profile market disruptions are emerging as a result of broadband adoption, smartphone usage, and consumer expectations for connectivity solutions that provide a personalized experience. Our 2021 sponsors are making all of this possible. Thank you to our sponsors for their support this year. Thank you for joining us at Connections today and throughout 2021. We are happy to have you here and look forward to your feedback.
Hello, and welcome back to our Connection series. This afternoon, we're going to have the opportunity to talk about the intersection between insurance and the smart home. We're wrapping up this year's series with this discussion because we think it's going to be really interesting, and we're excited to talk to leaders from both industries to learn their perspectives on the relationship between the two insurance and smart home spaces. And of course, this being our last thing of the year, we want to be sure that we thank our sponsors. We couldn't host these events without your support. And in this unique year, that has been more true than ever. This marks our 25th year of the Connections Conference, and we couldn't do it without their support. So thank you, all of you. We also want to recognize our supporters who work with us in different ways to help educate and network with the industry. So thank you to all of you guys. And just a reminder, if this is your first session, as an attendee, we welcome you to look back to all of our events for the remainder of the year. You can find videos of the sessions and the associated materials for download in the Watch Replays tab in your swap card platform that you're using right now to watch this. Finally, we're excited to share our calendar for 2022, which will include a continuation of our virtual events and a return to in-person events. The first in-person event is CES in Las Vegas. Keep an eye out for communications from our team that will include additional details for that and other sessions coming up. So I have the opportunity to open this afternoon's session with some data that I have pulled together based on our research. As a reminder, we do a quarterly survey of 10,000 broadband households, and we're able to pull all sorts of interesting data out of there. So in this case, we want to talk about the growth of IoT device adoption and all the diverse use cases involved, the slower growth of certain device types and why, and then the partnerships between insurance companies to leverage IoT for loss prevention. Finally, we'll be looking at opportunities to drive adoption. Now to start off, let's just reflect on the growth of IoT. The number and diversity of connected devices in the home surpassed 13 per user and continues to rise. Some of the biggest companies in the world are players in this space, so we certainly expect the growth to continue with their drive. Many connected devices designed for entertainment or to help customers manage their home environments are very popular. And they do functions such as creating more comfort and minimizing costs in terms of energy. These are the more glamorous devices and the image of the smart home we often see depicted in the media and online. But there is also other systems that are maybe more pragmatic. Security systems have always had a level of popularity that has increased recently as people spent more time at home in a turbulent 2020, and smart home devices entered the space, including video doorbells and networked cameras. Those two devices are actually two of our most popular smart home devices, with adoption at 13% and 12%, respectively. But there are other smart home devices that are not as popular as the security ones. Smoke detectors are pretty close, relatively high compared to some others, with the number topping the 10% I see as a sign of a popular product in the smart home. But there's certainly room for growth there. And water damage prevention devices are pretty low. 6% puts these devices among the least popular, and often devices in this range are only owned by the biggest smart home product enthusiasts. These are the unsung heroes, though, of the smart home, and even if they don't have the cool factor of some of the others we discussed earlier. The reason why is because they can be very important for our safety and protecting our property. Smart smoke detectors create a more nuanced, helpful, and pleasant experience so owners of smoke detectors don't get frustrated and take them down. This is critical to save lives and property. According to the National Fire Protection Association, local fire departments responded to an estimated 1.4 million fires in the US last year. These fires caused 3,500 civilian deaths and 15,200 injuries. Property damage was estimated at $21.9 billion. So on average, a fire department responded to a fire somewhere in the US every 23 seconds. Home structure fire was reported every 89 seconds, and a home fire death occurred every 3 hours and 24 minutes. Also, the fire injury occurred every 46 minutes. So thinking about all these together, these are staggering statistics. When you look at insurance information that focuses on the consumer, the numbers are also very serious. Considering wind and hail claims are at about 34% as the top cause of claims, the next two are fire and water damage. Cost per claims here are in 5 digits. Water damage is actually more insidious than fire, perhaps, because you don't even notice until it's too late. We're not talking about deaths or injuries in this case, but over time, a small leak can do major damage and cost a homeowner or insurance company around $10,000 per claim. When you compare these two, the non-emotional and more quantifiable costs, we can see that securing your home also goes far beyond watching for break-ins. These are all very costly events to consumers and by extension to insurance companies. So that explains why insurance companies have started to push smart devices like these. Starting in 2017 and going into, say, 2019, the typically slow to change industry began to launch a number of pilots and partnerships, including device discounts for insurance buyers or insurance policy discounts for device buyers. For example, Xfinity Home Security connects customers to Hippo Insurance. Hippo, we're going to hear from a little bit later as a reminder. So Xfinity connects them to Hippo Insurance with a discount on policies. Neos devices are free for some American Family Insurance policyholders. Bankers Insurance Group offers its customers a smart water leak detector and freeze detector from Roost, who we're going to hear from later, and also a discount on their insurance. Flow by Moen and Unomi partner to simplify device verification for insurers on the back end. The Unomi platform will show insurers if a Flow by Moen device is installed in the consumer's home and gives insurers the ability to therefore reduce costs because they can be sure that device is there and working. Roost devices, Roost is another company we're going to hear from today. Roost and Duck Creek partnered together in a bird-themed alliance that supports Farmers Protective Mutual Insurance and Centauri Insurance on the back end. Now, ADT announced partnerships with Hippo, Branch, and American Family Insurance. ADT will offer professional monitoring and installation services to Hippo's new customers and extend Hippo's smart home insurance discount to ADT customers. Branch Insurance will offer ADT customers discounts of up to 29% on their home and car insurance. And American Family Insurance partnered with ADT to provide American Family customers with discounted premiums when they use ADT Smart Home Security. It also negotiated discounts for the ADT equipment, installation, and professional monitoring. This partnership was immediately available in select states, but the company plans to roll out the partnership across more states going forward. Simply Safe, who again we're going to hear from later today, and Farmers Insurance also recently announced a partnership. Farmers Insurance will offer customers in Ohio, Iowa, and Alabama a 7-piece Simply Safe home security system with the first month of professional monitoring and no additional charge. So in light of all these pilots and partnerships we've seen over the past few years, we wanted to dig into the data and see what kind of opportunity was there. We think just about half of security systems were purchased from a security system dealer. So that shows that the traditional channel there was still strong, but the rest of the purchases came from a variety of sources. One interesting one I note is 15% systems that were purchased from home improvement stores. And smart smoke detectors are consistent with some of these patterns we see across other smart home products, which is to say the top channel is retail, either online or stores. But in the product category of smart smoke detectors, we see 11% were purchased from installing dealers without a retail location. So that's kind of a unique channel there compared to other devices. Taken together, these data points imply that devices like security systems and smart smoke detectors are devices that could be part of a home renovation project. It's also notable here to see the influence of insurance. It wasn't the top purchase trigger necessarily, but 13% of smart security system buyers and 20% of smart smoke detector buyers cited insurance incentives as a trigger for their purchase. So overall, the takeaway here is that these home safety systems and devices are part of a larger but fragmented market that includes players from many industries that interact with consumers in many different ways. In a marketplace like this, there exists a good opportunity for insurance companies to have influence, both in terms of communicating the benefits of some of the less glamorous devices like smart leak detectors we talked about, smart smoke alarms, but also to act as a channel to push these devices and systems into the homes of the policyholders. Coming up next, we're going to talk to a leader within one of the more forward-thinking insurance companies who's going to share details and perspective on their offerings and also how they're leveraging connected devices. Our visionary speaker today is the VP of Growth Initiatives from Hippo, Dave Wechsler. He has been working in IoT for years, including stops in a startup and ISP, and he's got a lot of experience he's going to share with us today. So thank you for joining us, Dave. How's it going?
Thank you for having me. Great. Thanks for having me, Chris. I really appreciate it. And also, I just wanted to congratulate the Parks team. 25 years is an amazing accomplishment. In fact, I've been attending Parks conferences over that time, both in energy and now insurance, and I've really seen the incredible impact that you've had on the smart home industry. So congratulations and thanks for being part of it. Appreciate it.
Thank you. We appreciate your support.
Absolutely. So quick background on myself, and then I'm going to share some slides. As I mentioned, I've been in this space for a long time. I actually was a smart home vendor in three different situations, mainly in energy, entered the insurance space about 5 years ago with Comcast, and now with Hippo, actually. It's really exciting to see the growth in these industries. Energy has so many great analogies showing how smart home kind of made it to the tipping point, and we're seeing a lot of that now in insurance right now. So it's an exciting time, and it's a great opportunity to talk about what we're doing here as kind of illustrative of what might happen. So a bit about Hippo. We are a home insurance company. We provide home coverage for hundreds of thousands of customers now and cover approximately 70% of the United States. We've always tried to differentiate ourselves around a couple of key facets: easier to buy, more modern coverages, but most importantly, we focus on proactive engagement, proactive protection. So while the traditional insurance paradigm has been very much about loss remediation or indemnification, our belief is that the insurance industry as a whole will move much more towards proactive care, helping customers avoid loss before it actually happens. And key to that is smart home technology, at least key for our deployment. So you can look at the insurance industry in a couple different markets and see that the concept is not too far-fetched. The market that I like to point to the most is the auto space. Auto now has over 8 million customers who have enrolled in smart home, or rather smart telematics or smart driving programs. So the insurer has the ability to look at the consumer and see how you're driving and actually provide you discounts based on safe driving behaviors. Now, while that originally was very hardware focused and eventually became very software focused, typically in the form of an app that you download on your phone, what you're seeing is an analogy towards home, where customers will also take technology and create a safer home and be rewarded for that. So this concept is not new. Many insurance companies are looking at telematics programs. They've been doing it with commercial property for a long time. But overall, the adoption for insurance and home control technology has not been that meaningful to date. And that's really where, as I mentioned before, Hippo is focusing on. Now, as Chris teed up, the market for insurance companies, what we're most interested in are generally around the losses that are focused around water, fire, and theft. A little less glamorous, water and fire, but they are, as Chris noted, extremely meaningful to insurance companies. The majority of our losses do come from these areas, but amazingly, these are areas that customers are very able to be protected by, right? Smart home technology already in market already does a fantastic idea protecting against these perils or loss areas such as water and fire. And being a very research intense industry, we actually like to see a lot of data on different issues, or rather different resolutions, before they're actually institutionalized. This is both from a regulatory perspective as well as from an insurance perspective. Insurers by our nature tend to avoid risk, so we'd like to see what works before we deploy it. But the great news here is that many smart home vendors have already started doing these studies. And when they have done these studies, they can be leveraged by really all of us in the ecosystem. So it's exciting to see studies like some that I mentioned here actually coming to light now. And I will tell you that from a regulatory perspective, Hippo has seen a lot of interest in regulators. Insurance by the way is regulated state by state. So as we approach a state with a concept of smart home, we actually have to have that state sign off on how and why we're going to implement it. But we've seen incredibly positive response from regulators as we've approached the market with different types of smart home programs. Oops. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, so for Hippo, we believe that engagement's the most important part, and certainly where we are as a company and kind of a state of the market. And by the way, I know there's questions coming in, and we'll probably get to this at the end without a problem. But from an engagement perspective, we want to be really clear with the customer what they're getting involved with, how these kinds of products can help them, and kind of the partnership that we're trying to create between us. So part of our purchase flow in the very beginning of the customer engagement is actually talking about smart home, explaining to the customer how we have a smart home program. If the customer is not interested in smart home programs or technology, that's fine. We are happy to provide home insurance for those who are not interested in technology. But for those who are, we actually investigate, do you have systems already? If you do, are they the kinds of systems that we can verify on your behalf? And if not, would you like technology from us? And if a customer is interested in smart home technology, we're happy to provide a varying level of product as well. Anything from basic free sensors to professionally monitored systems through the many partnerships that we've established in the market. And through this process, we kind of explain the give and take with the customer and what kind of discounts they can achieve by actually having smart home technology as part of their policy. And then from there, the customer signs up, and together we work to protect their homes. We think this approach has really led to high interest and high engagement. We see a very high opt-in rate, and we also see a very high activation rate with our customers. We are trying to be very articulately clear about the fact that technology comes with the homeowner's policy. Our requirements in terms of data are pretty light. We actually only today check on whether or not the customer has actually deployed the system, whether it's been activated. We don't actually take any other data besides that, which our customers like today. I think we're still in those early phases where customers are a little bit unsure about how data will be used, and we're happy to meet them at that point where they're comfortable. Although I do think the market will eventually provide more opportunities for customers to choose to opt in to share more data and potentially receive more discounts as we can kind of demonstrate how safe of a homeowner they are. But for today, customers generally like to have that very high level of data sharing, and that we're happy to do that. And we think we've achieved some very high penetration rates in the market because of it. Now that the program, though, is operationalized, and we spent the better part of 4 years, we've actually really begun to streamline the program and really lean in on what's most important. So the first couple of years were just around operationalizing the program, building the partnerships, the terms of our partners, and also the data. Then it was really about building a playbook for opt-in and activation. Again, this is a very new process for most customers. Very few customers have ever experienced receiving something from their insurance company and then working with their insurance company to change the nature of their risk. So building a playbook to engage them, make sure that we're very clear about what we're doing, and work with them to build a safer home. And now, most importantly, we have a large data set, years and years of data, hundreds of thousands of customer homes where we can see what works and what doesn't work. And it's been a lot of testing and learning, understanding, again, how customers like to be engaged and what's most effective in avoiding loss. Also, during that time, we've seen an incredible evolution of the market. In this particular slide, I'm just calling out water, but there's other technologies I'll talk about as well. 4 years ago when this started, water leak sensors were pretty basic. They've come an incredibly long way to systems that have AI and shut-off valves, and the kind of technology that we use as a insurer or that a customer is comfortable with kind of vary greatly depending on who you are and how you're working with your insurance company. But what's great to see is this technology is really evolving. Price points are coming down. What used to be a professional install only is now something that can be DIY'd, and we're now seeing this in lots of different markets. So it's exciting to watch the market evolve in conjunction with the business overall. We're also seeing new products come to the market outside of those loss areas or perils that Chris mentioned. Just to call out a few really kind of bespoke products that still have a lot of insurance value, but might be a little bit further down the pike in terms of when an insurance company might actually look to deploy. So anything from electrical arcing type technology, this Ting product here on the left, to commercial and residential flooding products, to hail detection. These catastrophic type losses actually are a huge part of insurance losses, and really it's been the assumption, I think, of the industry that there would not be IoT products to help solve these kinds of issues, when in fact the IoT smart home market is really stepping up and creating really innovative concepts to help insurance companies avoid even more loss. Again, I think a little bit down the road, but we are seeing deployments of all these technologies actually today, but I think in the mass market a little bit far down the road, but something that's really exciting to watch and something that I encourage really anyone with innovative ideas to reach out to different carriers, including Hippo, because we're always interested in seeing new technology like this. Ultimately, though, this is really a process of educating customers and helping customers learn how to avoid risk themselves. The insurance game has largely been for the last 100 years, you write us a check. If your house burns down, we'll come to you with that check and pay you back. But where Hippo really wants to go and lead the industry is about engaging our customers for, as I said before, proactive loss avoidance and proactive care. So, our theory is provide customers tools, educate about risks, provide incentives to kind of create that cycle start. And then as we work together more and more and partner more and more, we see our customers become safer and safer. And that ultimately really is the Hippo value proposition, enabling customers to better protect themselves through the tools and services that we provide. And I believe this will really become the theme of the insurance industry as a whole. And it really doesn't stop just with devices. There really is a level of services here that many of our partners have already begun to engage our customers with. And we think there's a lot of runway to do more creativity here as well. So obviously we work with a lot of home security companies. Professional installation and professional monitoring are core to their offerings. And we think a very valuable piece of that better home protection value proposition. In fact, I think we'll see more and more integration between insurance and these professional services to, again, alleviate kind of the risks associated with home loss. But we're also seeing opportunities in home maintenance. These IoT devices really determine or have a lot of data around the home and its performance and determine potential services that the customer might want. Now, this is data that just the customer sees through apps that are provided through the smart home partner. But more often than not, we're starting to see opportunities to actually take this data and help the customer enhance their own home protection through professional services or maintenance as well. So I think there's a real lot of opportunity here. So as IoT and smart home vendors think about this more than just selling widgets, which I'll talk about in a second. Think about this more as how can I help the customer actually create a safer home, not only through my product, but the data that comes from my product, providing insights into how I can actually make my home safer as a homeowner. Now, I want to spend a couple minutes just talking about some new business models that I'm seeing. And these are very analogous to what has happened in the energy industry as well. And I think these really are potentially revolutionary for the insurance space. Early on, just starting to see them, but I'd like everybody to think about this in their business model. And again, I mentioned the energy industry because it's just such a great analogy where insurance can go. For a long time in energy, we all tried to sell connected thermostats to energy companies, and we tried to sell solar panels to consumers. These models have evolved now to actually embrace, very different business models that have really driven adoption. So when I say the first one, direct sales to consumers combined with financing, I think the analogy there is the solar panel industry. Originally, solar panels came into the market at a very high price point, and the value proposition was unclear to the consumer. It was financing that really became a catalyst. So now the consumer could take a solar panel, they could see what the absolute cost of the solar panel was, but they could see what the monthly fee was, and they could compare that to their energy savings. When the consumer could look at those costs relative to the savings, it became a clear winning proposition. Very similarly, as smart home systems become more and more sophisticated, I believe that smart home vendors will have an opportunity to bundle in financing, where they'll be able to say to the customer, hey, if you choose to buy this system, so not have it subsidized necessarily by the insurance company, but buy it directly, and we can finance it for you, let's show you what the insurance savings will be. So an example might be a water shutoff valve, $600–700 installed. If you can say to the customer, for $10 a month, we'll finance that water shutoff valve. And guess what? Your insurance savings are $13. The customer will immediately see positive ROI. So financing is one that I'm very excited about. I think will actually draw a very clear picture for the customer on how it works, and I think will be a huge catalyst to our space. The next one is performance-based programs or managed programs, where, again, I look to the energy industry. For a long time, smart home vendors tried to sell connected thermostats to utilities as a way to manage peak demand. Yet, while intriguing, a lot of energy companies said, I don't really want to buy tens of thousands of thermostats. The kind of catalyst was when energy companies vendors came to energy companies and said, what if we bundle that into megawatts? So we don't necessarily sell you tens of thousands of thermostats. Instead, we sell you programs designed to get you the response that you need when you need it. Very similarly, insurance companies think about loss. If you were to come to us and say, how much would you expect this cohort of customers to lose, or how many homes of this cohort would have, say, a leak or a break-in or a fire? We could tell you that. That's our business. We know exactly how many homes should have that. So partner with us to actually sell us a reduction in those. Sell us a reduction in leaks. Sell us a reduction in losses. Partner with us on a solution versus selling us widgets. Again, it's a concept that's not being pioneered by insurance. I think energy is the best example, but it's one that I think will be a huge catalyst to the industry. And I really encourage anyone in the smart home space to think about this as a way to drive your business, because we are looking for that creativity. And then lastly, embedded coverages. This is a game of protecting the customer, and Hippo offers homeowners insurance that's designed to cover for a variety of risks. But I'm seeing more and more IoT smart home vendors start to think about, how can I offer some type of insurance that either complements a traditional homeowner's policy or augments it in a way that adds a broader set of coverage to the customer. And that's where I think there's some amazing opportunities to both get creative with brand new insurance products, or to be so complementary in what we're offering combined as a partnership that it almost becomes hard for the consumer not to want it. And we're seeing interesting examples in, say, things like deductible coverage or added services on top if there is to be a loss related to a smart home device. So again, don't just sell widgets to insurance companies or customers. Sell solutions thinking about overall coverage proposition and how the two work together. So in conclusion, and I do want to answer questions, the smart home proposition for insurance companies is really coming of age. And I'm seeing the exact same tipping points that I saw from the energy space. And I can say pretty confidently now that the same is going to happen right now with insurance. And now is the time in the homeowners market to lean in. So definitely, as a home automation company or an IoT company, start talking to carriers about opportunities, because I think that there will be a lot. Certainly at Hippo, we're very interested in engaging customers more and more in this smart home environment. Next, think about where we think most about losses: water, fire, and theft. Although we're very interested in these new technologies and new business models, remember, these are the key areas that we're looking at as a insurance company. And then ultimately help us engage our customers, mainly for education and engagement, because this is not yet a time when the home takes care of itself. I do believe we'll get there, and Hippo is very bullish on that as an opportunity. But right now, this is still very much about engaging the customers and participating in a way that the customer is part of that overall safety value proposition. Because net, this is about providing a safer home, lower losses for everybody, and better economics for everybody. So look at this as a long game, and really partnering with the customer along the way. So with that, I am going to open it up to questions, and I see some are coming in the channel. Let me stop sharing here. And Chris, I guess you're going to ask the questions of me?
Yes, I'm going to MC for you. All right,
Great.
so looking at a couple of questions together here, I see kind of a general trend of people wondering what traditional or legacy insurers are doing right now with regards to the smart home.
Yeah.
And then also for those who haven't moved in yet, kind of what is the best practices and best products that you would kind of recommend to them?
Okay, so a couple of things here. First of all, we're starting to see a lot of carriers try smart home technology out, which is fantastic. And for our attitude, the more the better. Like the rising tide lifts all boats here. We actually partner with a lot of other carriers, explaining how we're approaching the market. Certainly, the early testing is going to happen around the losses that I mentioned before, water, fire, theft, and they're going to look primarily to the same home security system partners that we've partnered with. Where we're seeing some real evolution is in new construction. Actually, we've got a great partnership with Lennar, where they're actually building in on our behalf home control technology like whole home shutoff valves and home security systems to actually help enable, as a catalyst for the market, homeowners to actually receive discounts out of the gate. And I think everyone, consumers, should be thinking about this as well. You mentioned they're not quite as interesting, not quite as sexy, water, leak, and fire, but there's so many great technologies out there that can ensure your house is safer, both from an insurance risk, but just a personal safety risk as well. So I'd encourage everyone to look not only at home security, but also water leak sensors, fire sensors, which are actually part and parcel with most home security systems today, as part of the offering. And I think you'll find that your home is much safer because of it, and your insurance company will be intrigued that you're going down this path as well, likely offering discounts in the near future.
Yeah, so you mentioned a couple of different products that you guys are kind of focused on, but what other trends are you seeing in the smart home in terms of innovation, new product developments, and tech trends that are going to influence insurance going forward?
Absolutely. Well, I mentioned some more innovative solutions in the home around other risks, like I mentioned the ting before, the fire arcing. Electrical arcing is a very rare cause of loss, but when it happens, it's very significant. But we're also seeing a lot around AI and ML, where data from sensors can start to detect ongoing issues. You mentioned actually in the tee-up about water being kind of a slow problem. We're seeing a lot of sensors in the market now that can detect moisture, can detect noises from water, and even behind wall leaks, where a lot of claims happen and a lot of customers can go unaware for years that mold or water is building up. So these are other exciting innovations that I think smart home will really pioneer in the next few years.
Yeah, definitely. And we're gonna have one of the leaders from Notion talk a little bit later, so
Sure.
people should.
One of our great partners. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So that's kind of a specialty of theirs too, right? The moisture sensors.
Yeah.
And they've got an interesting take on that. So everyone stay tuned for that. I would also note that during your presentation, you talked about the idea of working with municipalities. Could you tell us a little bit about what states are kind of easier to work with, what regions are easier to get on board with? What has your experience at Hippo been like working with different
Sure.
parts of the country?
Insurance is regulated state by state. So anything that we do in any state requires the state Department of Insurance to approve it. I can't speak to which states are better to work with than others, but I will tell you that everybody has an appetite now for smart home. And we've seen some states extremely aggressive about smart home, and others have waited a little bit just to kind of see what the results look like. But I can tell you that, and actually, there was just a recent National Association of Insurance Commissioners meeting, and the general feedback that a lot of us received was, as a whole, the entire country now is becoming very bullish on smart home technology. I can tell you it's pretty much going to become I believe personally, an opportunity across the United States, even though some states are a little bit slow on approving because they haven't seen all the data yet. I think within 2-3 years, every state will approve smart home technology as a product associated with insurance.
Okay, so the more skeptical ones, and what type of data are they looking at, and like what is their concern, I guess?
Yeah.
Right now?
So insurance regulation is really about protecting solvency of an insurer. So the obligation of a Department of Insurance is to make sure that we are going to be here to pay claims if a claim comes in. So part of the strategy of smart home adoption is incenting the customer with discounts. The last thing a Department of Insurance wants to see is an insurance company over discounting and potentially risking their ability to pay a claim down the road. So as data comes in and smart home data proves that, in fact, there are losses, reductions in losses, and that it's okay to discount and provide customers more and more incentives, they'll be more comfortable with the fact that, we're discounting or sometimes subsidizing the products completely.
Yeah, that makes sense. So also something that I noticed in your presentation that really stood out to me, I did customer experience consulting in the past before I was with Parks. And so I always notice when people take CX real seriously. And it seems like it's really something that's at the heart of what Hippo does. So I wanted to kind of ask you how you guys arrived at that approach. And how would you describe the perspective on customer experience inside Hippo?
Yeah, absolutely. So Hippo was really started with the concept of insurance is hard to buy and it's not a lot of fun. So the team here really for years has been optimizing our experience. Probably the most important thing that we do in the actual experience process itself is collect the data that you would typically have to answer on a homeowner's questionnaire for you. So many of these data sets, like how far is your house from a fire hydrant, or where's the nearest police station, or when was your roof last replaced? These are all data sets that we've actually figured out how to purchase and answer on behalf of the customer. So as you go through our purchase experience, we answer these questions for you, really streamlining the experience overall. And then we also can use data from satellite imagery and other sources to actually inform underwriting. Eventually, though, by the way, smart home will become very much part of that underwriting process, not necessarily just for Hippo, but the industry as a whole, as these data sets become more widely available. And I think there's going to be incredible opportunities for smart home companies there. But just to call that out, as you mentioned, Hippo really wants to make this experience as seamless and as easy as possible for customers. And I think it's a big part of, why we've done so well and what our customers love so much about the company.
Yeah, so you mentioned a lot of this forward-thinking approach and talking about working with the smart home. In terms of working with the different organizations that you have to work with, I noticed that there is potential for a lot of different cultures within insurance, within insurtech, within smart home tech, within municipalities around the country, and then with security system companies that can be either super high tech and forward-thinking or old-fashioned and legacy, minded. So what has it been like working with the different kind of partnerships that you've had to work with? What are kind of different approaches that you've had to take to accommodate different groups?
Absolutely. So it is complicated. There's a lot of constituents here. I think I've been on both sides, right? I was a smart home vendor and now I'm actually in insurance. And I think you take for granted how complex insurance is. So I'd certainly say to everyone out there, we're looking for innovation, we're looking for new ideas, but we're also very constrained. We're constrained in a way that's designed to protect the public, everything from data privacy to making sure that the discounts that we want to provide our customers are proper and actually can ensure longevity of insurance companies. And, as a potential vendor, you really need to take these considerations in effect as you work with insurance companies. In fact, rate filing alone, where we submit to a Department of Insurance what we'd like to do with, say, a smart home discount, can literally take years of approvals. Now, that'll accelerate as the market becomes more and more used to different programs and there becomes more and more data. But in these early days, there's a lot of interaction between us and the vendor, a lot of really deep technical integration to provide a great customer experience. And then there's a lot of detailed work between us and regulators around rates and how the consumer engages. And then, by the way, there's a lot of postmortem as well. Like there's a lot of analysis. Is this working the right way? Are we delivering on the promise that we said that we would deliver? So it's a slow process, but I do believe that everybody's going to win big. So it's a worthwhile one to invest in.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks. So I've been mostly asking big picture questions, but it's interesting. The audience is coming with some really tactical questions. So let's see if you can answer these. Do any insurance companies dispatch repair staff to fix issues on an urgent basis rather than wait for homeowners to respond? i.e., do they monitor their own sensors?
So we don't, because the agreement that we have with our customers today about data privacy. But I do believe that there's two great opportunities here. One is the professional monitoring companies, the home security companies, I believe can lean in and actually do dispatching of plumbers or whatever it might be if they sense a problem. And then eventually, I do think insurance companies will feel more comfortable sharing, asking their customers to share that data and actually work proactively on behalf of the customer's protection. And I would like to see the industry evolve down that path. But today we don't do that. We, again, really just look for activation signals.
Yeah, that's something that we talk about a lot as an opportunity in terms of devices being proactive, not reactive.
Yeah.
And so, to your point, a lot of smart home devices are designed to do replenishment when things are getting low. So why wouldn't they proactively reach out to you and say, we see that you have a leak, even though you haven't called us? Maybe the professional installer type companies are going to also be handling that in the future.
Absolutely.
As
And
kind
by
of
the
a
way,
service
we can
agreement.
build a discount structure for that as well. Like we'd be
Yeah.
happy to talk to providers who are willing to service the home on that behalf and actually build an analysis to see if our homeowners who have an automated dispatch for, say, a plumber see lower losses, because if they do, we can actually provide incentives back to the market for that.
So speaking of the different devices being proactive, do you guys do research on particular brands in terms of products and their claims to proactively fix problems? Is there any risk with reliability of the products? How do you handle those challenges?
So we rely largely on vendor research right now, and especially when it's third-party research. So I cited a couple research examples in the beginning of the presentation. But ultimately, we're going to pilot with technology. We're going to make sure that it actually delivers as we've been told it will deliver. And then ultimately, I'd like to see smart home vendors come to us with more risk sharing or upside type models. And I think a lot of insurance companies are going to have interest in this in the long term. So I would strongly encourage smart home vendors out there to really think about, how do we get creative, not just sell the widget to the insurance company, not just look for the insurance company to pay the money up front, but to actually partner in loss reduction and to, create a model where both parties benefit as losses are avoided.
That's great. Dave, thank you so much for your time and sharing all that information. It's clear Hippo is doing a lot of kind of innovative stuff in the space. So we're going to be watching you guys and in contact as we develop our research around this area. Also, we're going to have sessions coming later. So I urge all the audience today who enjoyed what Dave had to talk about to tune in a few minutes to a panel. We're going to talk to a bunch of different leaders. Also, remember to put questions for them in the comment box, and also answer the poll as we can. So Dave, I hope you stick around also and watch. Maybe it'll
Absolutely.
be exciting. Maybe you can put some questions in there too. And then later today, we're planning on doing a networking session on Zoom. So plenty of opportunities to engage for everyone who has time and questions.
Great.
So
thanks so much. I really
Dave.
appreciate the opportunity.
Great.
Welcome back. What a great presentation there from Dave at Hippo Insurance. Wealth of information and insights, and really appreciate the comments as well about Parks Associates' role in the industry, and particularly our Connections Conference in its 25th year. So I am really pleased to be able to bring the next two speakers to our virtual stage to do a joint executive Q&A and really focus in on the adoption of smart home products, monitoring, and risk mitigation in properties and multifamily. So I'd like to bring Brett Juergens, CEO of Notion, and Elaine George with Chubb, welcoming them to our virtual stage so we can talk more about smart home and insurance. So thank you both for joining us. Let's start with quick intros from each of you, and then we'll dive into the conversation. So Elaine, let's go ahead and start with you, please.
Elizabeth, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be talking about IoT. I've been in the insurance industry for over 15 years, and I'm currently a member of Chubb's IoT team, where I help to manage our IoT operations from sales to the ROI for our clients.
Great, thank you so much. Brett, let's hear from you too.
Yeah, hey, good to see you. Glad to be here today and at another great event from you all. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Notion, and we are a smart home monitoring platform that partners almost exclusively. We have some other partnerships, but with insurance companies for kind of really three primary reasons: acquisition, retention, and loss reduction. So excited for the talk today.
Okay, great. So, the size of the insurance opportunity for smart devices in homes and businesses is very substantial. We know that 70 million US households alone have insurance at home. And certainly technology provides added value and, different aspects of technology that can prevent and proactively, note what's going to happen before it happens, saving everybody time and money. So let's talk a little bit, Brett, and get your view on the adoption of connected devices in the home, and where do you see us at now? And also would love to get your perspective on monitoring services as well.
Yeah, well, I think some of your recent research and a lot of the industry information we follow, there's an incredible amount of adoption of smart home devices. I think the latest statistic I've seen, not only just adoption of one device, but going from I think 9 devices up to about 14 devices in a home that has adopted smart home technologies over the last few years is pretty incredible growth. And I think what we've seen is sort of a continued migration and a continued interest in devices that really help with managing your home, help with managing energy, and then help with managing risk. Some of it is sort of some of the fun stuff, some of the gadget aspect to this, but Notion is really focused on some of those more serious aspects. And I think that with where we see monitoring, we just got off of listening to Dave from Hippo and monitoring services overall. In our app today, and others are looking at things like this, we do have the ability for you to click a button and immediately get a plumber sent to your home. So short of fully dispatching, both for data privacy, concerns, and then also sort of who would you want us to dispatch to you as a homeowner, which plumber would you prefer? We give people an option to quickly connect to plumbers. And I think for us, with what we have come up with some more monitoring services, we're really going to expand into monitoring for things that go beyond fire and theft. Statistically speaking, water leaks, freezing pipes, and some of those other kinds of perils for a property, both home and business, happen much more frequently. And so we're really trying to pair the monitoring service with what's most likely going to be happening. Now, fire and theft are obviously very important, but some of those other things need to be explored further.
Absolutely, and we certainly have seen increased interest in moving beyond those access control points in the home, the doors and the windows, and really looking at the perimeter inside the home even, and then different areas that like the water leak detectors, things that can be detected and then quickly fixed to prevent very large catastrophes. Elaine, I want to bring your perspective in here, and why does an insurance carrier, why does this matter, and why is this such an important partnership for you all?
So, Elizabeth, I think it's natural for the adoption of all new technologies to be slow. Here at Chubb, we're seeing an increase in adoption from both personal and commercial customers. When I first started in this role, customers were asking, what is IoT? Do you work in the IT department? Now those questions are few and far between. Customers are now asking, how do the sensors work? What's the cost? How can I get the devices? Obviously, the awareness of IoT has grown, and events such as this one helps promote the value of IoT. And were you going to say something, Elizabeth?
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, in terms of your question about why is smart monitoring helpful, specifically for Chubb? When your business involved paying claims to repair and replace property because of water losses, which could have been prevented, the value of IoT devices is quite clear. Sean Ringstead, our Chief Digital Officer, describes IoT technology as shifting the role of the insurer from repair and replace to predict and prevent. We now help our customers before the loss occurs rather than dealing with them strictly after a loss. It's putting a whole new meaning to risk management.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can see what an impact that would have with a property, in the sense of you have so many units in it, and really that monitoring, giving some added peace of mind and knowing that things are safe. So that role of technology, cannot be understated. We're also seeing this in all sorts of different properties, whether it be colleges, hospitals, different retail going on, office buildings. And so this future proofing is becoming a really important aspect for all of the different players in the ecosystem. Let's talk a little bit about loss reduction, though, Elaine, if we could, and the severity of claims and how smart home devices really are having an impact there. So can you expand on that a little bit for us?
Absolutely. I'm glad you asked. I'll share a short story which not only helped our insured and Chubb, but the fire department also. We have sensors installed in a large public library system. We started out with sensors in one building. Shortly after installation, which was during the pandemic, a sensor sent a water alert to the manager's phone at 5 a.m. in the morning. The alert came through because the sprinkler head had been set off. The fire department came, but couldn't find the water source. They even told the facility manager nothing major was going on. Luckily, the sensor alerted the facility manager where the water was detected. The fire department went to that room where the alert was coming from, and lo and behold, water was spewing all over. The facility manager said that if he had not received that alert, it would have taken 3 to 4 hours for his team to get to that room. Since then, he's installed sensors in all 15 of his buildings. And we have several stories like this at Chubb. Some of our customers have even done videos for us.
Well, and I would certainly believe that. I know there is a large group of smart home tech people at OpTech this week, which is a large show focused on the multifamily apartment space. Really a focus in how technology can play a role for consumers as well as the property managers. Brett, I want to switch back over to you and talk a little bit about the benefits that these types of programs can end up playing for carriers in acquisition, in retention, and then engagement strategies. So could you share a little bit of your view on that with us?
Yeah, I would love to. I mean, I think, everybody thinks about loss reduction first and foremost when they think about, IoT and smart home paired with insurance. But a lot of our partners are actually using, as you said, our partnership, our products in conjunction with their insurance products to drive better acquisition and to drive, ongoing engagement. So I think just a quick sidestep, I'll be brief with this, but insurance companies are able, some, if they have filed state by state dependent, for smart home discounts, and then also for monitored security discounts. And so anytime someone is shopping for insurance, a lot of times they're looking at any kind of differentiators, which historically there have been few, somewhat of a commodity. And then also price. Price is a big piece of the equation when people are shopping for insurance. So what Notion is able to do is allow our insurance partners to offer less expensive policies, premiums to customers, which is an advantage. And then two, the partnerships that we structure and the way we kind of work with our insurance partners is to provide Notion at no charge to their end customers. So now it's differentiated. Now you're actually proactively monitoring and protecting a property, and you get less expensive insurance. That's kind of step one on the acquisition side. In terms of engagement and retention, we really focus on a couple of interesting things. One is entering the picture for an insured at the time of renewal or potentially at the time of claim. When you think about your annual insurance renewal, oftentimes it's not a big deal. You just pay your bill and you're back on track with having insurance. Time of claim is a huge deal. If you have a water leak and you're dealing with your insurance company, that sometimes can be a very painful process. And so increasing the positivity around such a negative event by allowing an insurance company to give you, a Notion kit at the time, say, of a water leak, so this won't happen again. So if it does, you can catch it next time and it won't turn into a big event. Sure, it saves the insurance company money in the future if there's a water leak claim, but it saves you the headache and hassle of having to get that money back and having to do the repairs of dealing with the water leak, right? So that's another kind of interesting piece. And I think to extend beyond just what our hardware is detecting, our mobile apps are capable of kind of promoting all kinds of positive information throughout the year. So say if it's Fire Safety Month, promoting that you need to replace your smoke alarm batteries to keep you and your family safe in your home. Maybe that comes with a sponsorship or co-branding from one of our insurance partners if you're the insured. So there's a lot of ways that we kind of take things kind of beyond what we're just monitoring in the home and give our insurance companies a way to sort of have a positive ongoing conversation with you, which typically doesn't happen. They sell you a policy and hopefully you don't have to call them up. Hopefully they don't hear from you again. And I think this is a way to really change that level of engagement with insurers being a partner for you in property ownership than rather just sort of sitting in the background being your insurance company.
Yeah, absolutely. And we certainly see from our research data that consumers who have some kind of incident in their home, whether it be a water leak or some kind of fire, they certainly are the ones who are ready and willing to pay for these kinds of devices, see the value in that discounted rate coming from the insurer, and then certainly the end result in being able to, basically stop something before it happens, creating a lot of damage. Elaine, let's hear from you on some of the key benefits that you all are seeing from your end.
Sure, Elizabeth. And I'll actually pick up on something that Brett mentioned. He mentioned that some carriers are offering insurance discounts. At Chubb, for our personal lines customers with shut-off valves, we do offer 5 to 8%. We're filing the credits now. It's not approved in all states as yet. And we're also looking into sensors. So Brett is spot on with there. In terms of what we're hearing from our customers on the benefits, it aligns with what Brett just mentioned. The sensors and shut-off valves provide them a peace of mind. It reduces their insurance deductible expenses by averting claims, increases customer satisfaction by avoiding disruption to their daily life or business, help them manage reputational risk, and also it helps them to engage in good risk management practice. If you can avoid a disruption to your life or business with cost-effective technology, why not avoid it? And that's what we're seeing most of our customers are doing now.
Yep, absolutely. Makes a lot of sense. Although, for a lot of legacy carriers, this may be a tall order to really bring these types of programs to consumers. And so how, maybe we can talk a little bit about how this works. Brett, I'm going to go to you first for this question. Can you explain a little bit more about the development of these kinds of programs, what the partnerships entail, and really how you all are working to help companies bring these types of programs to consumers?
Yeah, I think there's definitely been a migration of how companies like us partner with insurance companies. I do think still today this does happen some, but especially going back kind of, I'd say 3 years from where we had our first partnerships. I think a lot of the discussion was, insure, pay for these devices, and we, as kind of an early stage startup IoT company, promise that we will have impacts on acquisition, retention, and loss reduction with not as much proof as you'd like to see. I think that the auto telematics space probably is a good place to look to sort of track sort of where that started, the proof that started to occur. And now there are many, many carriers that have, safe driver. When I say auto telematics, it's really about the safe driver discounts, being able to monitor you driving. I think what's interesting in this case is there's just an ongoing set of behavioral changes that we hope to prompt for homeowners and for small business owners, particularly where we focus. We want you to go home and stop the water leak from happening, right? And so I think that the ongoing monitoring of a home or a small business is something that end users actually want to have continue to happen. And so when we think about the partnership structure, we have been able to, both because of our volume and scale, just no longer being a startup, and then also kind of a side note, we were acquired about a year and a half ago by Comcast. I mean, now we have the resources and the balance sheet to be much more innovative with the way that we're structuring these partnerships. Most of our users, almost all of our users, and you can buy our products online direct, but most all of our users get our products for free from their insurance company. And then we have data and analytics relationships with our insurance partners, whereby we're helping them understand kind of the usage of the products, the loss reduction aspects, those kinds of things. Very straightforward with our end users about data sharing and all of that, of course. But it's kind of how a typical partnership is set up. And I think going forward, as we now have enough data to start to be more confident in some of what we're able to do, there's a really interesting kind of ROI, return on investment equation, whereby we can sort of show some of the carriers that are either early partners of ours or that we're working to make partners of ours what our impact is on acquisition versus what they spend on marketing today. A lot of insurance money goes towards marketing today. Same thing for retention. A lot of homeowners stick around for 5 to 7 years. So retention is a focus, but I would say probably not quite as much as acquisition, and then especially loss reduction. As we show the impact that having our devices in properties actually makes for insurance carriers, there's a really interesting stack of kind of returns on that initial set of investments that we're seeing. And I think the last kind of couple comments I'll make is we have been exploring a few types of partnerships around sort of a loss share type model. Think of revenue share, but if we're able to reduce losses by X amount of money, can we actually get paid that way? Getting our fair share, if you will, by result-based kind of payments. And then the other, I think that we're pushing the envelope on a bit here too, is can insurance companies actually make more revenue per customer with IoT, not just look at it as a cost center, but over time, especially given the longer lifetime of a lot of insureds, how can they actually think about this as revenue generating in addition to sort of reducing cost over time? So we're really trying to push some of the economic models, but generally speaking, free giveaway to an end user, some payment for the hardware by an insurance company, and then data and analytics services that we provide to them as well is generally how we're doing things today, with some fun things coming in the months to come.
Well, that's great. Thanks for that explanation. And certainly there's a stickiness that comes with, this kind of partnership where you've got devices that provide value to the consumer. You've got discounts on insurance services and, that engagement strategy that creates additional, the additional stickiness that really comes with touching that consumer, not because of a loss, but because of something else. We do have a question from the audience. It's very relevant. So let me see if I can get this one in, Brett. Do you partner with telecom carriers to manage your network of devices? That is our question from the audience.
Hopefully I answer this correctly. So we are starting to look at partnering with some other carriers, really more for DIY home monitoring and security, and some of these things related to loss reduction. We aren't doing anything at this point, unlike really managing smart home devices from multiple different parties, trying to be sort of the smart home platform, if you will. I think some of the other platforms that are out there today we likely will play nicely with going forward, but we're not really trying to own the entire platform of the home. We're really trying to be, your central point for keeping your property safe. And we'll continue to launch products and services kind of going down that path, along with relevant partnerships like this one.
Okay, great. Thank you for that answer from the question from the audience. Let's change a little bit and look towards the future. So much has happened in the last, 18 months that I think nobody could foresee with the pandemic. I mean, we've had shifts everywhere along the supply chain, along personal habits, along professional habits. If you are running a business, it's craziness. If you're working with teams, it's a different experience. And we at Parks Associates see this continued change forward. There's really no going back to where we were, and things are forever changed as a result of the pandemic. So tell us, Brett, a little more on what you think is going to happen in the next, let's say, 5 years, which is really quite a ways out. But then if you look even further, 10 years out, are we in a world completely transformed by connectivity and connected devices and data, and what that can do for us as customers?
10 years out is a long time away, given that we've been in a pandemic for less than 2 years, and we've seen such rapid change. I think what I'd say on this, kind of from a smart property perspective, is I do think that there will be more and better interoperability, but I think that we're reaching some points where ease of installation, ease of use, really clear use cases are starting to really emerge more than they used to, and I think that will continue. I think what gets interesting around data ownership, even things like thinking about energy efficient homes and almost like energy ownership are some of the things that are happening with blockchain type technologies, being able to own your data. What is the definition of data? So as I look 10 years out, can I actually own the data coming off of my smart home devices? Similar to the discussions happening in the healthcare space, you have medical records today. That's your data, but you don't have the greatest access to it. It's not in one single location. To make that easy, like how can we really expand, knowledge and ownership and ease of use and ease of access, and then allow people to use that data as they see fit, either keeping it private or using it a little bit more of a public manner, and being compensated for that, either through cheaper products and services, payments, potentially directly, or other things that they care about, potentially donating data for research and those types of things. So I see a lot of that being a big focus. And I do see the combination of services being a big play. Obviously, we were acquired by Comcast. We're partnering with a lot of insurance companies. I think a lot of insurers are starting to think about their business as not just being insurance anymore, almost the definition of insurance changing. And we as Notion kind of have a long-term mission of becoming a requirement to obtain insurance, almost like a seatbelt in a car. You had cars that didn't used to have seatbelts in them. Well, why is that the case? I think the same thing will happen with kind of the connected home and other sort of tangential industries where 1 + 1 really can 3. So it's bigger topic than my 60-second rant on a few things, but I'll touch on those and turn it over to Elaine for some of her thoughts as well.
Absolutely, Elaine. Let's hear from you on that. 5 years out, 10 years out. Tell us what you see in the future.
So Elizabeth, I agree with you. From the pandemic, there is no going back. And I love this question since it deals with the future. And if you look around the world, countries like China and Saudi Arabia are really making some big changes when it comes to IoT devices. In addition to what Brett said, though, getting back to like this buildings we were talking about, we're currently retrofitting buildings with devices, but in 5 to 10 years, we're going to see it become the standard for sensors and shut-off valves to be installed during construction. Builders are already adding the IoT devices during construction, but it's not typical. In addition, I think as Brett was talking about, our appliances, gadgets becoming smarter, and then even our cities becoming smarter, it's only natural we'll want our homes and buildings to be smarter also, right? So I think in about 5 to 10 years, the conversation would actually move from should we install these smart devices to how could we improve the intelligence of our buildings and homes. As artificial intelligence continues its rapid advancement, we'll come to rely on our smart homes. I think IoT devices will be ubiquitous to help predict and prevent disruption in our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in agreement with you. And, we heard yesterday from Aaron with Brilliant, who is putting all sorts of devices in new home builds and really looking to that home as almost like the whole product itself. A consumer is going to come buy the home. It's all going to work beautifully together and integrated and create this experience that you could not otherwise have. So that is certainly where he sees the future, and a lot of work being done by different industry players. The idea of choice for a consumer and how they obtain these products, who is their trusted advisor, certainly see insurance and internet service providers at top of the list there as being a preferred choice that is trusted by consumers. And then certainly the role of professional services. I don't think we're going to have all of this connectivity and connected devices in the home the way we are with network congestion without somebody to call on to help with support. So whether it's a DIY install or even self-monitoring, the consumer is going to need somebody to look to help with those technical issues and see that growing role for the service provider, no matter what ecosystem they're from. Also, overall, that integration between these different ecosystems in the home and the opportunities there to ultimately provide the experience for the consumer, new value, and really something that they're willing to pay for and that they understand. So we have a lot of work in the industry still to do, but great strides have been made in the past at least 3.5 decades that Parks Associates has been studying these markets. And so again, I want to thank you both for joining us today. And Brett, thank you also for your support of the Connections Conference this year. We really appreciate your time today and look forward to talking to you again in person soon.
Thank you for having me.
Great. Thanks so much.
Great. So that'll be it for our executive Q&A. We'll be right back, though, for our last session of the year in our 25th annual event. It's amazing that we are not in Amsterdam this year and that we were not in San Francisco, but we certainly hope that you will join us in 2022 in Texas for our live events. And we'll be right back for the interactive panel, Smart Devices, Keeping Smart Homes Safe. Thank you very much.
New research from Parks Associates reveals COVID-19 has significantly impacted consumer behavior and has heightened concerns for safety and security, with 64% of consumers reconsidering at least one lifestyle change as a result of the pandemic. This new report, Safe Space, Elevated Smart Home Use Cases During COVID-19, identifies consumer intentions and actions to address heightened security concerns, preferred providers and sources of information on smart home services, and special concerns for apartment renters. According to this quarterly survey work of 10,000 broadband households, consumers are making long-term lifestyle changes in response to the COVID-19 crisis. As consumers invest in their homes, adoption of smart home solutions is expanding. Connectivity provides new ways to solve problems, and consumers are willing to spend money to improve their day-to-day lives. To learn more about this new research, please contact us at sales@parksassociates.com.
Hello, everyone. I'm back, and I'm excited to be part of this panel coming up, talking about smart devices and keeping the smart home safe. We have an interesting mix of panelists here today, from insurance to smart home to insurtech. So I'm excited to introduce everyone and start to get their perspective on some interesting topics we have coming up. So the first person I'd like to bring in is Adam Kornick, the president of Insurance Division of Porch. Adam, hello. Thank you for joining us today.
Hey, thanks, Chris. So just really briefly about Porch and why I'm here. So Porch is really focused on being a vertical software platform for the home. And so we have this really unique model to help homeowners live home ownership. So we help service providers like home inspectors, mortgage brokers, roofers, other people around your home with software. And what we found is the data in that software is just as valuable as the fees we get by helping those vendors. So we use that data to make the bottom half of that circle that you see, which is by then in turn helping consumers. And the two key things I'd say about that data are is it gives us really great access to consumers. We know when someone's moving and the exact location they're moving to. So we can show up exactly when they need services. And insurance is one of the most valuable and most needed services when someone's buying a home. It's essentially compulsory in the US. And then the second thing is that data just helps us segment and price all those products like insurance even better. So that gives us a real sustainable way to deliver discounts to people who are lower risk and to help them mitigate their risk. So that's really Porch, and we're all about helping homeowners with everything, including insurance.
Very good, Adam. Thank you.
Thanks
for sharing. All right, next we're going to bring on board Aleem Lakhani. He's the EVP of Specialty and Risk at American Trust. Aleem, hello, thanks for joining.
Yes, hello. I don't know why the video is not showing, but
it's okay. We'll show your slide instead.
Yes, I'll just speak to it at the moment. Hello, my name is Aleem Lakhani, and I'm with AmTrust Financial Services and AmTrust North America, in specific, the Specialty Risk Division. We provide warranty and extended warranty programs for retailers, distributors, and manufacturers. We cover areas such as automotive, heavy equipment, medical devices, and an array of consumer products, from appliances to personal computing to consumer electronic goods. For those of you that may not be as familiar with the industry, although I'm sure many of you are, the industry, based on warranty weeks data, is estimated to be around $50 billion on an annual basis, of which nearly half is in the consumer electronics and consumer product category. Among the areas that are growing very rapidly are the home warranty business. It's one of those exceptions that's standing out in the domain in which we're seeing tremendous growth. And it speaks well to the emergence of connected home and the opportunities related to being able to deliver solutions in the connected home as part of the overall home warranty solution. So I look forward to us having a dialogue today to share with you some of the innovative things that AmTrust is doing to leverage connectivity and connected home in particular to bring more value with the products and the solutions that are available in the marketplace. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Roel Peters, the CEO and co-founder of Roost. Hello.
Thank you, Chris, and thanks for having me. I'm Roel Peters, CEO, co-founder of Roost. We are the leading property telematics provider for small, medium SMB as well as the home. We have developed an end-to-end platform from the sensors, focusing on water leak, freeze detection, smoke alarm listening, power outage detection, and so forth, all the way to a cloud data analytics component, all the way to a mobile app, white label mobile app in the consumer, in the policyholder's home, all the way to professional monitoring. We do that in a purely B2B2C fashion, partnering with dozens of insurance carriers. It's a white label solution, so it's the carrier's brand in front of their customers. And we very recently introduced a security component, professional monitor security component, which we believe will make the adoption in the personal lines in the home market increase significantly. Water leaks is like broccoli. Security is like the killer app, or it's like mac and cheese. And bringing that together will really be a win-win for the carriers, for the homeowners, and everybody concerned. Thank you very much.
I love that analogy. I'm struggling to get my toddler to eat something other than mac and cheese, so that really rings true. All right, next, let's bring in Matt Wolf. He's the head of partnerships at Simply Safe. Matt, how are you doing?
Doing great, Chris. Thanks for having me. Simply Safe, we're a home protection company with a mission to make every home secure. Historically, less than 1 in 3 homeowners had home security. So to achieve our mission and to get more homeowners to use home security, we've developed over the past decade a flexible, convenient, and affordable solution for homeowners. Our products protect against theft, but also common causes of insurance claims like you've been hearing about, leaks and fires. And the products are designed by Simply Safe to be so easy to use that they can be installed by the homeowner without a requirement to pay for and schedule an installer. We were the first home security company to offer professional monitoring for the home without requiring a long-term contract, which both customers and insurance partners really appreciate. Lastly, we offer very reasonable and transparent pricing for our monthly monitoring. It starts at $14.99 when the average customer in the US still pays over $50 per month for professional monitoring. This approach has been really well received as we protect well over 1 million homes and nearly 200,000 small businesses each month. And back in 2018, Hellman & Friedman, a leading global private equity firm, which owns Hub International in the insurance space, acquired us for over $1 billion. And we've grown considerably over those past 3 years since that transaction. Simply Safe's smart home insurance solution, which was launched nearly 2 years ago, helps insurers address really several key areas of their business and has now been rolled out in 35 states by our partners, including Farmers, Hippo, Branch, Ohio Mutual, and some others.
Thank you, Matt. Glad to have you here. So everyone today in their introductions mentioned this idea of partnership and collaboration with insurance companies. So I'm really interested to find out more about how those partnerships come to be in terms of who is choosing whom and what are the criteria. So I'd like to go ahead and start with Aleem and ask, in terms of developing partnerships with smart home security or tech companies, what types of partners are you looking for?
I think Dave, in his opening presentation, spoke very well to this particular point. What we're looking for are opportunities to partner with companies that bring a solution as opposed to selling a particular widget or product, where the primary mission is for us to open up our policyholders and channels to distribute that product. We're really looking for an opportunity to develop a partnership that brings real value and is one that is scalable and sustainable, meaning that it can grow as technology improves and new products emerge or new applications of the technology emerge. So we're very much in that mindset of finding partners that can work with us and scale those opportunities. In addition to that, I would just simply say that whereas many of the speakers here today are speaking about home insurance, we're in the product space. So what we're looking for are how can we essentially partner with companies that can provide data that can allow us to expand the realm of connected devices in their home ecosystem and provide solutions that are bigger than just a specific product. So whereas you might want a leak detector for purposes of being able to deliver an ROI with respect to mitigating losses associated with water damage, we're actually underwriting the liability associated with the reliability of a product specifically. And so with more connected devices, we're trying to bring a bundled holistic approach. So really data is key for us so that we can understand that. So that's among the things that we look for.
That's awesome, Aleem. And that kind of answers a question we had earlier today, actually posed to Dave about product reliability. So that's really interesting that you brought it up here, that there's an intersection. Now, Roel, you mentioned earlier that you guys are going to insurance companies and handling some white labeling. And when you guys are deciding who's going to get these white label devices, be it the broccoli ones or the mac and cheese ones, how are you picking those who you're partnering with?
Yeah, it's really you have to deliver an end-to-end solution, and it really depends on some of the business requirements that carriers have. Some are focused more on the peril mitigation, others are more focused on whether it's acquisition or retention. So Brett mentioned a number of those aspects as well. So you got to figure out what is the strategic importance and the strategic initiatives that you're tying into. But once you've figured that out, you really have to tailor the solution and meet the carrier where they're at. And what I mean with that is for oftentimes, and let's talk maybe about small commercial, oftentimes the carriers don't even have contact information of people that manage the property. They have the person that pays the insurance bill, but who do you actually need to talk to deploy these types of telematic solutions? Who do you need to work with there? And so that is, for example, a service that Roost will offer as well, to be able to find and identify these people. And so it depending again on where the carrier is at, we believe as a vendor, we have to fill in those blanks and really provide that end-to-end solution in order to have a satisfying and a delightful experience for the policyholder, but also deliver then the value for the carrier that they're looking for.
No, Ruby.
Understood. So Adam, Aleem, and Roel both mentioned data, and so I saw you perk up a little bit. Do you want to speak on this as well, about how you choose the partnerships you choose?
Yeah, I think for us that's the key thing. So we're really actively partnering with and acquiring companies that either have a key property technology service or data, because our flywheel is all about getting that data, and they both talked about that. So I think a great example for us is that we recently acquired Flowify, which is one of the leading mortgage broker SaaS solutions. So that's a great example of how we get that data from the mortgage brokers to really help consumers and makes the process better for them. We have the data to price more accurately and to build better and better propositions. And then what the mortgage brokers get back is this whole ecosystem where now they can help. Not only do they have a great software solution, but they can help their consumers with all the things around the home. And so that any technology service that has that data and that connectivity is really key for us, and that's a big part of our acquisition strategy.
Very interesting. So speaking of acquisition strategy and who is your customer, Matt, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about, what SimpliSafe's approach is here. So you're the head of partnerships, so this is your area, but there's also obviously a big part of SimpliSafe who goes direct to consumer, sells in all sorts of different channels in terms of retail and everything like that. So how do you guys decide who you're going to partner with, considering your other interests and your, the sort of significance of your own brand equity?
Yeah. No, I think, in terms of, we think we can be a great partner, and there's obviously really great synergies between, Simply Safe, with a big, nationally recognized brand in home protection, and what many of the top insurers are doing. We think this can be a big help in some of the areas that Brett and Roll called out in terms of their need for customer acquisition help, being able to associate with a product that millions of customers on their own are going out and buying, but having it included in a policy like some of the partners I mentioned, do for their policyholders, including a Simply Safe system and some monitoring in their policy. But also, from an engagement perspective, we have these millions of customers every month engaging with our products. When an insurer provides a Simply Safe product to their customers, we definitely take the Roll's analogy of the broccoli, of water detection. The customers are not raising their hand and buying on their own. Engaging devices like our smart home security camera and getting people engaged. I have one top 5 carrier who would run a proof of concept with a single point solution that they gave to customers, and they equated it that it was like a paperweight, that these devices just sat in the box and didn't do anything. So we're really mindful of that. But I think we see in terms of the go-to-market and what carriers are interested in is a couple of additional things I don't think have been called out today. Is insurers require reliability from their partners, and it's really critical. These devices not only need to consistently work, but they also need a really strong supply chain, which is of course critical in the world we live in right now. With 90+% penetration of US households having an insurance product, that's tremendous scale, and they need a partner that can keep up with that scale. They also need a partner that can deliver a really strong policyholder experience. Someone mentioned earlier, it's really expensive for policyholder, for an insurance company to acquire a policyholder. So insurers need their partners really to deliver high net promoter scores, for that insurer, so they can maintain that relationship. Just in terms of marketing as well, which I think you touched on lastly, real quick, we see that synergy really come to life. We've had a great relationship with Progressive the past few years, and they do a lot of co-branded digital marketing that they develop for their policyholders. And, those digital marketing campaigns consistently are some of the top performing, for instance, email campaigns in terms of engagement and conversion that Simply Safe is included in across partners and publishers. So it really resonates for a policyholder when someone they've hired to protect the most, in some cases, valuable asset financially that they have, their home, tells them about a service like a Simply Safe service that can protect their home. So it really resonates with the policyholder and the homeowner.
Yeah, it really strikes me that there are such similarities in terms of the messaging for peace of mind that's coming from insurance companies and security companies. That's really what you guys are ultimately selling to consumers at the same time. So everyone's kind of mentioned working with insurance companies and the different opportunities to work with policyholders, but I want to note that you guys kind of all come from different types of companies in terms of sort of structure and location. And I would assume that there's been some challenges to working with insurance companies who are, everyone's kind of said today, typically very slow to change. What you're really trying to do is use partnership for innovation here. So maybe let's start with Aleem and talk about what it's been like internally, making some moves in the insurance world to start working more with products that are high tech and kind of emerging.
Absolutely. And so others have spoken to this, and that is data is key for us to be able to make good decisions about both different kinds of products that we may bring to market, and also the relative improvement in the performance of that product by being able to obtain data on an ongoing basis to rate the risk appropriately. So we've always been very focused on obtaining that data, and to the point that has been raised by others in their analysis, that the openness or the creation of a lot of data that could be meaningfully employed by us so that we can overcome those perceived barriers about slowness would definitely help. So I would encourage that there is more alliance and work with the carriers, and to ask the question, what kind of information do you need, so that we can quantify the risk and understand the risk better, so that we can design products and services. It's not that we are averse to risk alone. Certainly as a carrier, you want to write the right risk, for which to determine the right rate, we need that information. That's the impediment that we find, is accessibility to good quality, reliable data to be able to write good products and maintain continuity of the right rates, rather than have a scenario in which we've, premised on bad data, have got bad rates and have to make massive corrections, which ultimately undermine the brand for our partners and ourselves. So that, I would say, is one of the critical things that we need.
All right, so Aleem says data helps them feel comfortable. Roel, is that more or less what your experience has been working with insurance companies, that you can provide them the data and they're willing to be innovative and work with you?
I think that's spot on. At the end of the day, insurance is all about the data, historical data, and insurance companies are run by actuaries. They live and breathe data, and if you give them data, the only question you're going to get is, can I get more data? And so I think the intrinsic nature, the slowness, if you will, in the insurance industry has just to do with it takes time to gather that data as well as then, in order to then provide discounts or bake it into policies, you got to prove to the regulators, in every state, that you're not taking undue risks as a carrier. So it is just in the way the industry works. You're just going to have that the reliance on data, but then baked in a slowness. As one of the pioneers here, we were one of the early ones 7 years ago when we started talking about home telematics. We actually have taken a very proactive approach in getting to that data, because you need the data in order to do an ROI, to do a deployment, but in order to do the deployment, you need the data. So you get kind of in this catch-22. And what we did a couple of years ago is we stood up what we call the home telematics program, and we actually gathered half a dozen insurance carriers that were doing these deployments, select deployments to their partners, and that then would be sharing the data, from the sensor data to the property data to the claims data. We engaged with Willis Towers Watson as a consulting company to really help us with the analysis of that. We are really at an inflection point here. We are in not very far away. 2022 is very close, and in the next year we will actually be able to have enough data, enough claims data, to actuarially relevantly prove the impact of these types of devices. And so I can only second what Aleem here said around data. But I would add to that is that we're actually really close to having a comprehensive and convincing data set, which I believe will be an inflection point for the industry in the adoption of these types of smart home devices.
So Matt, how about you, coming from kind of a different product category? What has it been like working from security coming towards insurance companies? You're muted. Matt, could you unmute, please?
Sorry about that.
There we go.
There we go. Was just going to say, I think we've had a similar experience to many of the perspectives shared. Certainly, these are not the fastest moving companies. Many insurers we work with are forced to work at the speed of insurance, which obviously isn't super fast. But it's been fantastic bringing to market first of its kind type programs. Never before had a professionally monitored home security system been offered with monitoring as part of an insurance policy. And there's just it's a big opportunity, many different problems that we can jointly help solve for each other. And the great thing is there's a lot of really smart people in the insurance industry. You heard from our partner Dave earlier today. There's people like Steve Lacoste at Branch and Carolyn Wald at Farmers and hosts of others that are really brilliant people that are focused on figuring out the best way to deliver these experiences for policyholders and to mitigate, hopefully, the severity and frequency of loss. So it's definitely taken patience. We've been at this for 5 or 6 years now, but we're really excited about where the road is heading.
Yeah, I appreciate that you guys all are having shout outs to your favorite organizations you've worked with and people you've worked with. That's awesome. It's good to bring some names to light. So we're talking about innovation a lot, and part of that innovation represents business opportunity, additional revenue streams specifically. So I wanted to kind of bring Adam back into the conversation and ask how Porch is really tapping into the market for home maintenance and renovation as a new revenue stream.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Chris. So again, we're really focused on home ownership, and the way that Porch started was our founder, it's his third firm. And after a couple of successful exits, he was actually building a home for his family. And he found all the things you're talking about to be quite difficult, right? And so he really had this idea of being the one-stop shop for the home. And so I think we want to make that ecosystem, again, that B2B2C flywheel I showed early on, where we have that network of partners. We often provide them software or a marketplace. And then we get that data to, in turn, help consumers. And so I think that can be things that are very focused on mitigating losses, like routine maintenance, gutter cleaning, making that easy for people. So our insurance products can provide actuarially justified discounts. But just as much, we want to let people, whether it's our service or the service of someone else, help them. And I'd say really the key place we found to help people with that is when they're moving. So I mentioned this earlier, but we found that when people move, they find it to be really stressful. It's rated as the third most stressful life event. And so that's where we really focus on creating that space where we have a concierge, we have a moving checklist, and we'll help people at any stage of life. But that's where we've really seen the most success, that they want all those things and we can bring them together in a place for them.
All right, so Aleem, he's talking really close to your heart with the home warranty type talk. If you're moving and you're buying a new home, hopefully you're smart and you negotiate with the seller some payment towards the home warranty. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you guys are working with home warranties in terms of bringing new solutions?
Absolutely. So I think as Rose mentioned, the automotive world is known for using telematics to be able to determine driver behavior and provide better rating mechanisms. We need the telematics of the home to be along the lines of a collaborative venture with both product manufacturers, home insurers, and warranty providers like ourselves, in which that include home warranty, as well as all the elements that are associated with smart home, appliance, HVAC, and everything like that, where we can leverage the telematics data associated with that so that we can ultimately deliver. It's not a question just about loss mitigation. Undoubtedly, that's really critical as a carrier. However, it is to transform the entire customer experience. To speak to the point that individuals have spoken to, that customer acquisition is very expensive, but the ability to be able to leverage telematic data from smart devices to be able to really understand the customer so that we can have a better customer engagement strategy, we can have operational efficiencies, We can have newer models or business models related to warranty solutions. So, based on utility, and then with respect to the operations, being able to gather the data from the sensors so that we can really engage in preventative maintenance, not using latent data to hypothesize about the probability of an event, but actually use data to determine intelligent fault detection methodologies. What we do with that is we develop a much more holistic ecosystem around the home, where the experiences they have with respect to the enjoyment of their premises, the safety, the convenience, and the savings, the total cost of ownership of everything, is really where I think we need to go. As smart devices become significantly more ubiquitous, you talked about an earlier data point of 13 in 2021, and I think from your data as well, in 2025 the number is forecasted to be, I think it's 20 or 21 as an example. And when you look at that, along with how much acceptance there will be about sharing data, so that we can monetize the data to benefit the individual, from personalization, that concierge service, risk rewards, perks, incentives, lower rates. The consumer is going to expect to have this totality of experiences, and therefore see that there is so much more we can do through collaboration with the partners that are participating in this, and being able to bring a much more dynamic solution to the market based on that data and value proposition that we can take to individuals and homeowners.
Yeah, so that's going to be appealing to the policyholders. So, Roel, do you want to talk a little bit about this also? This type of deepening customer engagement that you get from working with the insurance companies and providing these devices?
Yeah, at the very, very fundamental level is the policyholder needs to invite you into their home. Yeah, you can't just push your way in. Yeah, and it's something that the insurance carriers have traditionally not done. Yeah, they didn't have a presence or into the policyholder's home. So I think that's where very fundamentally it starts. And then the question then, back to my earlier analogy here, is like, why would a policyholder do this? Yeah, and then you end up with the carrots and the sticks and kind of the incentive structure that needs to be put in place. But first and foremost, it needs to be something that a consumer is really interested in and embracing. Yeah, there's only so much financial and monetary incentives that make sense and that you want to put in place if it's not something that they inherently or intrinsically are interested in. And so I think this is one of the maybe overlooked things, but I would dare to say that pressure monitored security, in some ways, that's the killer app for the smart home. Yeah, it's been there all along. Yeah, that's the largest adopted solution, connected solution in the home. And so if you think about it in that way, then and use it as kind of the lead-in or the center point, it's so logical that insurance carriers would embrace this. And traditionally they have not. Yeah, traditionally because it's not a lot of claims cost associated with theft and burglary, they kind of looked at it in a very different way and not necessarily from a claims mitigation perspective. But I think if you then start putting those two and two together, where you look at how security can really be the enticement, the factor that really why you're getting invited into the home, and being able to bring that together with somebody's peril mitigation, like water leak detection and so forth, it really becomes a win-win. So I think that's where clearly where the industry is going, and in some ways hindsight is 2020, but I think it might have been out there for us to see all along. We didn't really have to reinvent it, but finally we're getting there and we're embracing it.
All right, Matt, how did Roel do in terms of describing the Trojan horse of the security devices that also let us put some water leak detectors on some pipes?
Yeah, no, I think he did a good job. In terms of the value or the opportunity that I think our insurance partners have been able to realize from partnering, with a leading home security company like us. They, as others have focused, I mean, it really is about trying to mitigate loss, efficiently acquiring more customers, and creating that sticky, engaging experience that Roel talked to. We've heard from partners who have tested Simply Safe in co-branded above the line digital advertising. So, calling out the benefit of what they would get included with their policy. It can't be messaged just free, because free is a real 4-letter word in insurance with all the regulators. But those that have tested co-branded, marketing have seen really significant wins in terms of cost per quote. When they, compare it to advertising, they're just generic advertising. So they are getting some of that goodness from including this offering from a customer acquisition standpoint. And, our partners that are, including, the Simply Safe products and service in a policy have been getting also, pretty meaningful churn reduction wins at the annual renewal marks, when they include this in the policy. So definitely clear opportunities there for, for insurers to benefit. And quite frankly, for Simply Safe too. I mean, we have, like I said, there's well over 1 million homeowners every month who hire us to help them protect their home. And as more insurers start to see the value in these smart home devices and start funding these, electronically verified discounts that are richer than your typical discount, we want to make sure our existing customers get the most value out of having a Simply Safe system. So, we've begun making sure that our customers are aware that they can get these great deals if they choose to take a policy from one of our customers. So there's definitely a lot of goodness that can be shared all the way around.
Yeah, for sure. And so we've talked about a couple of different types of devices, and I swear my ears did not deceive me. Aleem mentioned fall detection. That's something that's kind of near and dear to my heart over here. I've written some reports at parks about different ways to do fall detection. I was sort of curious, thinking about the potential for connected health as another area for bringing devices, or is it, I don't know, leveraging existing security devices for fall detection? What's kind of your perspective on kind of some other new products that you could bring in that would be, positive ROI for insurance companies?
Certainly. So in the connected space, there's been a lot of emphasis around automotive connectivity, around home connectivity, but now we're seeing significantly more exploration and opportunities around what we can do with respect to health devices and medical devices, non-critical ones in particular, and in different environments, being able to develop more in that area. The other is with respect to cybersecurity. We certainly see that there is a lot at the enterprise level, but at the individual level, certainly the ransomware, anti-malware, and things like that are available through published software. But we think we need much more in that area. So some of the methodologies and some of the developments that we've seen in the enterprise space, how does that get converted into the consumer space? So, for example, the ability to be able to measure the relative risks of connectivity in your home, and more importantly, provide cybersecurity, but also provide complementary education so that individuals can empower themselves to make the necessary changes to bring about that. I think particularly as products look to deploying particularly the analytics and the actions that it'll be called upon to perform for that device at the edge, and where individuals that are doing DIY installations associated with that and may not have the most robust practices associated with security, password protection, and things like that, you start getting into a higher vulnerability. And so we see that there is a really big opportunity for developing innovative cybersecurity products, but at the consumer level. And that's another area of interest of ours as well. So medical devices is one, in terms of health and wellness, but also in cybersecurity at the home level.
So now you mentioned, so you use the word developing, and so I want to make sure that I'm clarifying here. Are you talking about developing cybersecurity sort of abilities inside AmTrust, or are you talking about developing products that leverage partnerships with AmTrust for security?
The latter, with our interest in the underwriting and the administration of the program, but really looking to technology partners that can work with us so that we can execute on that kind of an objective. We're a carrier. We're not a hardware manufacturing or software manufacturing production house. So we really do look for partnerships to bring the best in class solution to the market.
Got it. So we're talking about some relatively big changes in terms of business model. And so I'm just curious if anyone can anticipate what the next business models are going to be. What have we not seen yet? Adam, you guys are pretty innovative in terms of what your business model is. Do you have some idea of what else is coming? What's going to be the new change?
Well, if I think about what's really been successful in the U.S. market over, say, the last 20 or 30 years, in my mind, there are probably two key things. So one has been how insurance is distributed, and the other has been how it's priced. And those have really been focused on the automobile insurance because that's the bigger market. So if we start with pricing, I think all the things we're talking about here are how kind of telematics from cars influences the equivalent for the home. So how that data comes in. So again, that's why we're really focused on getting that data from the exhaust of our software businesses and making the price more accurate without effort for the consumer. I'm not sure that's really insightful. I think most people see that coming, but some of the ways it happens will be different. I think one thing that occurs to me is that on that one, before I talk about acquisition, is that I was at Progressive when we were using hardware devices, and it worked really well for us as an insurer, but didn't work well for consumers. And so when smartphones became available as that way to get data from consumers about their driving, it really changed the marketplace. So I think that equivalent of smartphones, which could be security systems, it could be smart speakers, but something in the home that plays that consumer-facing role that the smartphone played in cars, I think that will be a big change, and which is why we want access to that data. If I think about acquiring consumers, right, so there's a shift from largely a commission-based model to acquiring people through broad marketing or targeted digital advertising. I think so that will happen in the home. And again, I can't say exactly how it will happen, but I think embedding insurance in experiences when consumers actually need the product and it takes effort out is what's going to work for them. So for us, we're betting a lot on moving, and that's our first use case. But I think there'll be a lot more, right? How can you make it so that when the business model will change, that as opposed to a dedicated insurance agent as the only way to get insurance, that insurance agency will be embedded inside some experience, whether it's moving, buying a security system, refinancing your mortgage, maybe paying your bills. But I think those are the two things that seem most likely to me: the granularity of pricing from access to a different set of data, and then some new way of acquiring consumers that's likely related to embedding the insurance into exactly when it's needed.
Yeah, that's super interesting, this idea of bundling insurance with some other services like that are collecting that data at the time. So that got me thinking about what some of the insurtech companies are doing, what Hippo is doing. We were talking to them earlier today in terms of how they're making it really easy and accessible without an agent to get insurance. And that shows, a lot of innovation and that they're coming from a smart place. But there's also a lot of other insurance companies that are, maybe a little bit less likely to be making big changes like this. So, you know, we've heard from everyone that Progressive is doing smart things. Obviously, Aleem is here, and his company is smart and cool, so I'm not going to attack them. But Aleem, maybe you could start by telling us, you know, in your experience working with other insurance companies and, you know, your insurance colleagues, what is it that they don't know that's creating missteps for them in terms of trying to approach new technologies and opportunities that we're talking about today?
It goes back to we don't know. I don't want to say we don't know a lot. We know a lot. We have a lot of data, but we only grow and know more when we have more data. So again, back to what we were saying earlier, it's really part of our DNA. We get data, we learn, we become better at what we do, and we can execute around that. But I do think that, you know, we are presented increasingly with innovative products for which there is no historical precedence in our data set to be able to price it. And so consequently, you know, we look for proximate surrogates. And at the end of the day, it's not that we take a leap of faith. We do the best mathematical calculations we can to assess the risk. But the key thing is the ability to be agile and learn. So it goes back to the old adage of fast failure. If we've made mistakes, the ability to be able to monitor, receive data, so there's not a lot of latency in the process. It isn't a complex process of making iterations and being able to change and move very quickly on the dime. So you have to have in your supply chain, in your partners, with your partners and their sales channel, the ability to be very nimble and agile and be able to make changes so that you are priced correctly as we evolve with experiences. So we're increasingly ready to take risks. Ultimately, that's our business, but it has to be calculated and it has to be able to be such that we can correct mistakes from that. And I think again, it goes back to accessibility to information, being able to, and you know, that's why smart devices and connected devices, you know, whether, you know, as was shared just now about whether it's in lieu of a dongle using a smartphone, whatever, or just the connected devices with our partners, what we want is the ability to gain access to that data, be able to analyze it quickly and make inferences from that so that we can ultimately price correctly. So we are developing an appetite for things, but we still need the data to be able to govern ourselves in a responsible way.
Got it. So maybe one of the non-insurance side people can answer the same question. Roel, what do you think? What are the insurance companies you've talked to in an effort to partner with them? What do they not know that they don't know?
Yeah, I think what's not well understood by carriers is that there is a real first mover advantage from a carrier perspective. And what I mean, now, of course, I'm talking for my own business, but let me explain from a carrier perspective. As you understand the data, which is, by the way, a complete new data set that has never been available. It's basically you get insight in what that black box looks like. As you get that data and you get these insights, you're basically able to change the risk profile of your book of business. And what that means is you can price higher risk that actually is higher, or mitigate or price lower, or just take the gains on where you can mitigate the risk. But by definition, the business that you actually don't want going to somewhere else is actually bad business. So your book of business becomes lower risk, and so it's a better book of business, versus your competitor actually gets worse. And so there is a real first mover advantage here in being the first one as a carrier to take advantage of such a unique new data set that's becoming available. And I think that's not quite understood, that it can actually very rapidly improve your own book of business, but as a consequence, be the detriment to someone else's book of business.
If I can, I would argue, Raul, that we are changing in that regard. when I look at AmTrust as an example, you're absolutely right. We have actuarial staff, underwriters, but they're complemented with now product developers, strategists, business development, and we're getting information from our sales colleagues into what's happening in the industry that's warranting us to be different. And so when we look at innovative products, I couldn't agree with you more that first mover advantage is an important. We may not be lightning speed, that's already been spoken about, but I would say that we are very much recognizing that in a very competitive market, we get increasing amounts of pressure, certainly in our domain, and we don't want to have a race to the bottom in pricing. What we want to be able to do is bring about innovative new products and be able to have a competitive advantage through first mover steps. So we do have more of a cross-functional team now evaluating that and trying to make those changes. But I agree with you that that is certainly important. Maybe it isn't quantified per se sometimes as well as it could be, but it certainly is changing.
So we actually have a question from the audience that speaks directly to this. So they're asking, how reliable does this actuarial data have to be, and who is guaranteeing that reliability? So, Aleem, when you guys are taking leaps of faith, if you're taking the risk of being first mover, like we were just talking about, is there a particular threshold? Is there a internal methodology? I mean, you can't probably tell us the details, but is there like a finite process, or is it a discussion with the other organizations you were talking about internally?
So with respect to the fact who ultimately, has to pay the bill, it's the carrier. So ultimately, the best of calculations, if something goes, differently and it results in a very poor loss ratio, we're ultimately responsible for situations like that. So it's incumbent upon us to be as prudent in calculating that risk or having the ability to make corrections on that if we've miscalculated on anything. But it is our dime at the end of the day. Number two, we absolutely have a methodology, and in that methodology, we write business to be with a respectable return on the investment for the risk that we take. And also we recognize that there is an elasticity to the pricing strategy in the marketplace. And so you have to price to win as long as it's fair. And so we do have a lot of different elements that we do consider, but we do write business to pay claims because ultimately that's our commitment to the policyholder, is that they're, as you have pointed out, whether it's peace of mind, whether it's the risks, real or perceived, that they may have, we have to stand behind that policy. So we design policies to pay, and if we've overpriced, we change. If we've underpriced, again, we change. The idea is to find that equilibrium that sells well, delivers the right value proposition, and remains consistent in the rating that we've developed for it.
Okay, great. So we're coming down just the last few minutes. So I want to also address what we have going on in terms of the poll. So I noticed that we've done a good job of convincing our audience that damage from water leaks is a big deal. But I also see that in our other poll question, we see that helping to prevent damage or loss is 70% of people chose that as the best way for technology to improve insurance offerings. So being proactive is a challenge. We talk about it all the time in Smart Home. We talked about it a little bit earlier, Dave and I talked when we were talking about what Hippo is doing. Adam, I feel like maybe you guys are in a good position because you're engaging people when they're moving. Could you talk a little bit about opportunities going forward with regards to using technology to prevent loss and being really proactive in terms of preventing claims that are going to be coming down the road?
Yeah, so we You heard a lot of people talk about there are technologies and even just simple tactics that can reduce loss. And so one thing I would offer is if you look at commercial insurance, this is actually a pretty common practice. And the difference is that the scale of the risk being insured and the owner being in some cases a sophisticated business individual means that that investment is available. So for us, it's all about taking the cost and the effort out of that mitigation and protection. And so the couple of ways we see that happening. One is if we can just take the friction out of something that people would want to do. So an example would be cleaning your gutters. If you think about how a house works, right? Most of the things that hit it are from the sky. And so the roof is an important part of the envelope for damage. And cleaning your gutters just reduces risk. It makes your house less expensive to insure. And this doesn't require special fancy tools, hardware, or software. Most people know they should do it. You got to find somebody or you got to get up there and do it yourself. So we can just make it easy for consumers to schedule it, to get it done, to pay for it, et cetera. So that'd be one example of just taking the friction out. Then the other piece would be where we can make the incremental cost lower. So if we're in your home and helping you anyway, and you can imagine that if we're already helping a consumer with their shopping for utilities, shopping for security, and we're getting that set up for them, that's a great time to also put any kind of loss mitigation device in at the same time because the incremental cost of doing it is low. So again, what I would say is I think there's a recipe for doing this. If you look at high cost commercial, the difference is we just have to change the economics so that it's easy for consumers both from a effort standpoint and a dollar standpoint to adopt what already works there. But that's a lot of how we think about when we're helping them.
Got it. So I want to, on this topic, I want to give Matt a chance here too, because I know that the security space is very interested in being sure that they're doing a lot more preventative and deterrent measures with regards to their technology. Can you talk a little bit about what Simply Safe and other security companies could be doing to kind of prevent burglary, break-in, and vandalism from resulting in claims?
Yeah, absolutely. We're incredibly focused on making professional monitoring as effective and valuable as possible. We've rolled out functionality several years ago around video verification, for instance, where a homeowner can opt in to be able to share with our monitoring partners the ability, when there's an alarm, to be able to view some footage to confirm that, yes, there is indeed someone who's broken in, or there has indeed been smoke in the house. This helps, get much faster response times from first responders, from police and fire departments, because of the proliferation of false alarms. Usually a verified eyes on the home can result in much quicker response times. But we've announced our partnership with Rapid SOS, which will allow direct from the signal in the home to be able to notify first responders immediately and get to much quicker response times. And Simply Safe's even announced too, we're going to be creating our own monitoring service. We're standing that up. We have a facility in Richmond, Virginia, where we can really add a human element and technology to that to ensure much faster response times should there be an event where someone is heaven forbid breaking into your home.
All right, that seems like a great place to wrap up. It's a different type of human monitoring of data, but I feel like that's what we've been talking about the whole time, is how can we gather great data that's going to prevent loss and get the right humans and products involved with supporting the policyholders. So I want to thank everyone for joining the panel. It's been really informative. This has also been a great year for us, I should say, with regards to the Connection series. We appreciate people like you guys who are willing to come and join the panel. Also want to invite everyone here to join our networking session on Zoom. The audience can do that using a link in the platform the SwapCard platform right now. You guys should all have the Zoom link also that we've sent you probably by email. So hopefully you can join and field some more audience questions. So I appreciate all of your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, so we want to make sure that we thank our sponsors as we kind of wrap up tonight. This session has been brought to you all by Notion. They're a really exciting company that's partnering with some insurance companies in helping provide some water sensors and security sensors, motion detectors. It's a really neat model, and they've been a great partner to us. Brett did a great job in his conversation earlier today with Elizabeth. Now, up next, as I mentioned, we have the Zoom networking discussion. The link is there in SwapCard. If you look around for it, you should be able to click, and eventually the kind of turns red, and you click on it and it actually opens Zoom for you. So that's great. Also, I want to call out some new research that we have coming out. It's actually out right now. Smart Home and MDUs, one of my colleagues put this report together. It's really interesting and cool. We interviewed, or rather surveyed 300 US MDU property managers and got all of their feedback on technology that they're using that relates to us in the smart home space. So that's really exciting, talking a little prop tech and also smart home tech. So if anyone's interested in that report or any of our other research, I think I plugged some of my stuff earlier today too. Please check out my reports. I'm smart and I made good reports. So contact Jason Paris. We have his contact information here. You can also contact Ashton if you want to sponsor convention or virtual events like this one, or even the in-person events that we're planning for next year. Sponsorship opportunities are available. And then finally, be in touch with us by social. We have a Facebook page, LinkedIn. We're very active on Twitter, and I actually work on our podcast with my colleague Rosie, and so we would love for you guys to subscribe to that and also engage us with feedback there. So looking forward next year in 2022, we have, starting in February, a series of in-person and virtual events. The in-person events are gonna be here in Texas. But we're excited to also be going to CES in January. So take a look at these different topics and watch our website and our marketing emails and things like that for announcements and details. So speaking of CES, we have the whole, here we go. So here's a detailed look at what we're going to be doing at CES. We have basically a whole day of Parks Analytics or Parks Associates goodness to share here across a number of different topics. A lot of members of the team are going to be involved with sharing some of their research. And then we're also going to have a networking reception that's sponsored by Cox Communities. And that'll be an opportunity to actually meet some of your colleagues in person that we've all been talking to each other on Teams and Zoom and that type of thing. But it'll be awesome to see some of you guys in person. So I'm excited about that. And finally, wrapping up our year, wrapping up our day outside the networking conversation we're about to have, I just want to thank our sponsors again today: Alarm.com, Calix, Cox Communities, SmartRent, Xfinity Home, Bitdefender, Johnson Controls, Notion, who I mentioned already, Tuya, Ayla, Plume, and AirTies. Not only have you guys been sponsoring us, you've also been dedicating your time and participating in our events, and that's all been appreciated. So we want to thank all of you. Also, all of our supporters. It's been a great year working with all these different organizations. So on behalf of Parks Associates, I want to say thank you and see you next year.